There comes a moment in every life when the calendar changes, but the heart does not. The world celebrates a new beginning with fireworks, resolutions, and hopeful promises. Yet countless people step into a new year carrying the same invisible burdens that exhausted them in the last one. They change the date, but never change the weight. They turn the page, but keep reading the same painful chapter. And so another year passes, not because time has failed them, but because they never gave themselves permission to release what no longer belonged to them. Perhaps the greatest prison is not built with walls of stone, but with memories we refuse to loosen, fears we continue to feed, and regrets we insist on calling home. We become caretakers of old disappointments, polishing yesterday's wounds until they shine brighter than tomorrow's possibilities. We tell ourselves that holding on makes us stronger, when often it is the quiet act of letting go that reveals our deepest strength. Every burden you carry asks for your energy. Every resentment borrows from your peace. Every unnecessary fear quietly collects interest from your future until hope itself begins to feel expensive. The truth is that life is always offering us an invitation to become lighter. The seasons understand this wisdom. Trees do not argue with autumn when it asks them to release their leaves. Rivers do not cling to yesterday's water. Dawn never apologizes for leaving the darkness behind. Nature moves forward because it knows that growth always requires surrender. Yet we, with our beautiful and complicated hearts, often believe that pain deserves permanent residence simply because it once shaped us. As 2026 waits just beyond the horizon, it does not ask how much money you have earned, how many people admire you, or how perfect your plans appear. It asks something quieter and infinitely more important. What are you still carrying that was never meant to travel this far? What old story keeps introducing itself every time you try to write a new one? What fear continues to whisper that your future must resemble your past? Today is not about making another list of ambitions. It is about making room for them, because no dream can flourish in hands already full of bitterness. No new opportunity can comfortably live beside constant self-doubt. No lasting peace can settle inside a heart crowded with yesterday's unfinished battles. Before you ask life to give you something new, you may first have to release something old. So before you cross into 2026, pause for a moment. Stand at the doorway between who you have been and who you are still becoming. Look honestly at what you have been dragging behind you. Some things deserve your gratitude because they taught you. Some deserve your forgiveness because they hurt you. And some deserve only your goodbye because they have already taken enough from your life. Today, we will uncover 10 things that must be left behind. Not because they never mattered, but because you matter more. The heaviest burdens in life are often the ones no one else can see. They are not carried on the shoulders, but in the mind, in the heart. And in the quiet moments when no one is watching, they travel with us from one year to the next, whispering old fears, replaying old disappointments, and convincing us that what happened yesterday must somehow define tomorrow. We become so accustomed to carrying these invisible weights that we stop questioning whether they still belong to us. We simply adjust to them, believing they are part of who we are. Yet there is a profound difference between carrying a lesson and carrying a burden. A lesson strengthens you. A burden slowly weakens you. One prepares you for the future. The other keeps pulling you back toward the past. Many people believe that time alone heals every wound. But time is only a witness. It watches us grow, stumble, and rise again. Yet it cannot remove what we insist on holding. A year may pass, then another. But if resentment, guilt, fear, or regret remain tightly wrapped around your spirit, the calendar changes without your life truly changing. You may celebrate a new beginning, but inside, you are still living in an old season. The weight remains the same, only the date is different. What makes these hidden burdens especially dangerous is that they rarely announce themselves. They disguise themselves as caution, responsibility, loyalty, or even wisdom. You tell yourself that you must never forget who hurt you because forgetting would make you vulnerable. You convince yourself that replaying your mistakes will prevent you from making new ones. You hold tightly to old disappointments because releasing them feels like admitting they never mattered. Yet none of these habits protect your future. They simply occupy the space where hope, courage, and joy were meant to grow. Imagine trying to climb a mountain while carrying a backpack filled with stones collected from every difficult moment in your life. At first, each stone seems small enough to keep. One represents a harsh word someone once spoke to you. Another represents a failure you cannot forgive yourself for. Another carries the weight of an opportunity you missed. One after another, the stones accumulate until your journey becomes exhausting. The mountain has not become steeper. Your load has simply become heavier. The tragedy is that many people blame the mountain for their exhaustion when it is the unnecessary weight slowing every step. The mind has a remarkable habit of protecting what is familiar, even when what is familiar causes pain. We revisit old memories because they are known territory. We repeat old worries because uncertainty feels frightening. We cling to old identities because they seem safer than becoming someone new. But growth has never been comfortable. Every meaningful transformation asks us to release a version of ourselves that can no longer carry us where we are meant to go. The person who enters a new chapter cannot always think, react, or believe exactly as the person who survived the previous one. There is also a quiet cost to carrying emotional weight that few people recognize. It changes the way you see the world. A hopeful opportunity begins to look like another chance to fail. A kind stranger is viewed through the lens of past betrayal. A new relationship suffers because an old one still occupies your heart. The future becomes filtered through the pain of yesterday, and without realizing it, you begin expecting disappointment before life has even had the chance to surprise you. Freedom rarely arrives as a dramatic event. More often, it begins with a quiet decision. A decision to stop feeding thoughts that no longer nourish your soul. A decision to stop giving yesterday authority over today. A decision to recognize that while your past may explain your scars, it does not have to write your destiny. Every burden you release creates space for something far more valuable. Peace where anxiety once lived. Confidence where doubt once settled. Gratitude where bitterness once lingered. And hope where despair once made its home. The greatest gift you can offer yourself before stepping into a new year is not another promise to achieve more, but the courage to carry less, because the journey ahead will always be shaped not only by what you choose to pursue, but also by what you finally decide to leave behind. The past has a quiet way of following us when we refuse to make peace with it. It does not always appear as a vivid memory or a dramatic regret. Sometimes it hides in the small decisions we make every day. It whispers that we should not try again because we failed once before. It convinces us that people cannot be trusted because someone once broke our confidence. It tells us that happiness is temporary because disappointment has visited us too many times. Without realizing it, we begin living in reaction to what has already happened instead of responding to what is happening now. Old pain becomes the unseen architect of a future that never gets the chance to be different. Pain is not the enemy. Every person who has lived, loved, dreamed, or struggled has known its presence. Pain teaches us compassion, resilience, and humility. It reminds us of our humanity and often shapes our greatest strength. The problem begins when pain is no longer a teacher, but becomes a permanent companion. Lessons are meant to guide us forward, not chain us to yesterday. When we continue carrying emotional wounds long after they have taught us what they came to teach, they begin stealing pieces of our future, one quiet moment at a time. Think about how many opportunities have been lost because fear borrowed its voice from an old disappointment. Someone who was once rejected may stop applying for the position they truly desire. Someone whose trust was betrayed may build walls so high that genuine love cannot reach them. Someone who failed in a business venture may convince themselves that success belongs only to others. These decisions often feel logical because they are rooted in real experiences. Yet they allow one chapter of life to become the author of every chapter that follows. Old pain also has a way of reshaping our identity. Instead of saying, I experienced failure, we begin saying, I am a failure. Instead of believing, someone hurt me, we quietly accept, I am someone who will always be hurt. These subtle changes in language transform temporary experiences into permanent definitions. We stop seeing ourselves as people who survive difficult moments and begin seeing ourselves as those difficult moments. The distinction may seem small, but it changes everything. Identity influences action, and action shapes destiny. Many people wait for the perfect circumstances before allowing themselves to move forward. They tell themselves they will be happy once they receive an apology, once life feels fair, or once every unanswered question finds its answer. But some apologies never come. Some losses can never be explained. Some endings remain unfinished. If your peace depends entirely on circumstances outside your control, your future will always remain hostage to your past. True freedom begins when you decide that healing is no longer dependent on what others choose to do, but on what you choose to release. Every day spent reliving yesterday is a day borrowed from tomorrow. Energy that could have been invested in learning, creating, loving, and growing is instead spent replaying conversations that cannot be changed or wishing for outcomes that no longer exist. The mind becomes crowded with echoes of what was, leaving little room for dreams of what could be. Hope requires space to breathe, And that space is created whenever we loosen our grip on memories that no longer serve us. There is remarkable courage in acknowledging that something hurt you without allowing it to define you forever. Strength is not pretending that pain never existed. Strength is refusing to let pain become the loudest voice in your life. The deepest scars often remain, but scars tell a different story than open wounds. A scar speaks of healing. It reminds you that although something once broke you, it did not destroy you. It becomes evidence that you endured what you once believed you could never survive. As another year approaches, remember that the future arrives empty-handed. It brings no assumptions, no judgments, and no memories of your previous failures. It offers fresh mornings, unexpected opportunities, meaningful connections, and countless moments waiting to be shaped by the person you choose to become. Whether those gifts can fully enter your life depends on how much room you are willing to make by releasing the weight of yesterday, trusting that what lies ahead deserves the best version of your heart rather than the most wounded one you have carried for far too long. Fear, regret, and resentment often appear to be separate struggles, but they are deeply connected. Fear keeps your eyes fixed on what might go wrong. Regret traps your thoughts in what already went wrong. Resentment ties your emotions to the people or circumstances that caused you pain. Together, they create a cycle that quietly steals your freedom. They convince you that you are protecting yourself, when in reality, they are preventing you from fully living. Before you step into a new year, you must decide whether these emotions will continue to shape your choices or whether you will finally choose the lighter path of freedom. Fear has an incredible ability to disguise itself as wisdom. It tells you that avoiding risks is the safest option. It whispers that trying again could lead to another disappointment. It reminds you of every time you stumbled, every dream that did not come true, and every moment when life failed to meet your expectations. While caution has its place, fear often grows far beyond its purpose. It begins making decisions for you. Opportunities pass by because fear convinces you that you are not ready. Relationships never deepen because fear insists that vulnerability is dangerous. Goals remain unfinished because fear predicts failure before the journey even begins. A life directed by fear becomes smaller with every passing year, not because the world lacks possibilities, but because fear keeps closing doors before you ever reach them. Regret is equally deceptive. At first, it feels productive. You replay old decisions, believing that if you think about them long enough, you will somehow change the outcome. You imagine different conversations, different choices, and different endings. You ask yourself endless questions that begin with, what if, and if only. But the past never changes its answers. It remains exactly as it was, no matter how many times your mind revisits it. Meanwhile, the present quietly slips away. Regret becomes a thief that robs today's peace while offering nothing in return. The lesson hidden inside your mistakes is valuable, but endlessly punishing yourself for them serves no purpose. Every successful person carries stories of failure, missed chances, and painful decisions. What separates them is not the absence of regret, but the willingness to learn from it and continue moving forward. Resentment may be the heaviest burden of all, because it ties your emotional well-being to someone else's actions. You continue carrying anger toward people who may no longer even think about the pain they caused. Every memory reignites the same emotions, allowing old wounds to remain fresh. Resentment often feels justified because the hurt was real. Forgiveness, however, is not about pretending the hurt never happened or excusing harmful behavior. It is about refusing to let another person's actions continue controlling your inner peace. When you hold resentment, you keep reopening a door that should have been closed long ago. The person who hurt you occupies space in your heart that should belong to your own healing. Freedom does not arrive because life suddenly becomes perfect. It comes when you stop demanding perfection before allowing yourself to experience peace. It begins with accepting that uncertainty is part of every meaningful journey. It grows when you understand that mistakes are not evidence of failure, but evidence of living. It deepens when you realize that carrying anger does not punish those who hurt you nearly as much as it punishes you. Imagine standing before a bridge that leads into a brighter future while holding heavy chains in your hands. Each chain is labeled with a fear you refuse to confront, a regret you refuse to release, or a resentment you refuse to forgive. The bridge is strong enough to carry you, but the chains make every step exhausting. The destination has never been out of reach. The weight has simply made the journey harder than it needed to be. Every new year offers more than another chance to accomplish goals. It offers an invitation to become emotionally lighter, mentally stronger, and spiritually freer. The greatest victories are often invisible. They happen when fear no longer dictates your decisions, when regret no longer defines your identity, and when resentment no longer occupies your heart. Those victories create room for courage to replace hesitation, gratitude to replace bitterness, and hope to replace despair, allowing you to walk toward the future with open hands, an open mind, and a spirit no longer imprisoned by the burdens of yesterday. Every new year arrives with quiet promise. It does not announce itself by guaranteeing success, wealth, or perfect circumstances. Instead, it offers something far more valuable, a blank space waiting to be shaped by the choices you make. Too often, people believe that crossing into a new year automatically creates a new life. They count down the final seconds, celebrate with excitement, and wake the next morning expecting everything to feel different. But a new year is not a magic door that transforms who you are overnight. It is an invitation. Whether that invitation becomes a meaningful new beginning depends on the condition of your spirit far more than the date on the calendar. Entering a new year with a renewed spirit means allowing yourself to believe that your future is not permanently tied to your past. It means recognizing that every experience, whether joyful or painful, has prepared you rather than imprisoned you. Life has a remarkable way of teaching us through both victories and setbacks. Success builds confidence, while failure builds wisdom. Joy reminds us what is possible, while hardship reveals strengths we never knew we possessed. When you carry only the lessons instead of the pain, you step into the future with greater clarity and deeper resilience. Purpose is often misunderstood. Many people imagine it as one grand mission that suddenly reveals itself in a single extraordinary moment. In reality, purpose is usually discovered through ordinary decisions, repeated consistently over time. It grows each time you choose kindness over bitterness. It becomes stronger every time you act with integrity, even when no one is watching. It expands whenever you refuse to let temporary disappointment convince you to abandon your dreams. A meaningful life is not built by one dramatic breakthrough, but by countless small choices that align with your deepest values. Before a seed grows into a mighty tree, it must first break open beneath the soil. From the outside, that breaking appears like destruction, but it is actually the beginning of transformation. The same is true for people. There are moments when life seems to dismantle everything you thought was certain. Relationships end. Careers change. Plans collapse. Dreams are delayed. In those moments, it is easy to believe that you are falling apart. Yet sometimes what feels like an ending is simply the necessary beginning of a stronger version of yourself. The person you are becoming often requires the old version of you to be left behind. A renewed spirit also requires gratitude. Gratitude does not ignore life's difficulties or pretend that suffering never existed. Instead, it changes the way you interpret your journey. Rather than asking why every hardship happened to you, gratitude asks what every experience taught you. It shifts your attention from what was lost to what remains. It reminds you that while not every chapter was easy, every chapter contributed something valuable to your growth. A grateful heart sees possibility where a discouraged heart sees only limitation. Purpose flourishes when your attention is focused on what you can influence instead of what you cannot control. You cannot rewrite yesterday's conversation. You cannot erase every mistake or undo every disappointment. But you can choose your response today. You can choose your habits, your words, your priorities, and your perspective. These daily decisions gradually shape the direction of your life. The future is rarely changed by one extraordinary action. More often, it is transformed by ordinary actions practiced with extraordinary consistency. There will always be voices that encourage doubt. Some will come from the outside, questioning your abilities or your dreams. Others will come from within, repeating old fears that have lingered for years. A renewed spirit learns to recognize these voices without surrendering to them. It understands that confidence is not the absence of uncertainty, but the willingness to continue despite it. Courage is not waiting until fear disappears. Courage is choosing to move forward while fear quietly walks beside you, refusing to let it take the lead. As you prepare to enter another year, remember that your greatest resource is not your past achievements, your financial success, or the approval of others. Your greatest resource is the person you are becoming through every lesson, every challenge, every act of perseverance, and every decision to keep growing. When your spirit is renewed and your purpose is clear, the future stops feeling like something you must fear and begins to feel like a path you are finally ready to walk with hope, determination, quiet confidence, and a heart prepared to embrace every opportunity waiting beyond the horizon without carrying the unnecessary weight that once convinced you your best days were already behind you. Letting go is one of the bravest decisions a person can ever make. It may not look dramatic from the outside, There are no applause, no grand ceremonies, and often no witnesses to the moment it happens. Yet within the quiet chambers of the heart, letting go is a profound act of courage. It is the choice to stop carrying what no longer serves you, even when it once meant everything. It is the willingness to release familiar pain for an unfamiliar future. Many people believe courage is found in holding on, enduring endlessly, and refusing to surrender. But there are moments when holding on is simply another form of fear, and true courage is found in opening your hands and trusting that what is meant for you cannot be lost by letting go. One of the greatest reasons people struggle to let go is because they confuse release with defeat. They believe that walking away from bitterness means the hurt never mattered. They think forgiving someone means approving of what happened. They fear that releasing a dream means admitting they were not good enough to achieve it. In reality, letting go does not erase the importance of the past. It simply refuses to allow the past to dictate the future. It honors the lesson without remaining trapped inside it. It acknowledges the wound while choosing to heal, rather than continually reopening it. Life is constantly changing, and every season asks something different of us. Spring invites growth. Summer rewards effort. Autumn teaches release. Winter offers reflection. Nature never resists these transitions because it understands that every ending prepares the way for another beginning. Yet people often cling to expired seasons, trying to revive relationships that have already ended, opportunities that have already passed, or versions of themselves that no longer fit the life they are meant to live. Growth becomes difficult when your energy is spent preserving what time has already asked you to release. Imagine trying to fill a glass that is already overflowing. No matter how pure the water you pour into it, nothing more can remain because there is simply no room. The same is true of the human heart. If it is overflowing with resentment, fear, regret, disappointment, or endless comparison, there is little space left for gratitude, joy, hope, and peace. Letting go is not about creating emptiness. It is about creating room. Every burden you release makes space for something better to take its place. Every fear you surrender allows confidence to grow. Every resentment you release invites peace to settle where anger once lived. There is also great wisdom in accepting that not everything is meant to stay. Some people enter your life to teach a lesson, not to remain forever. Some dreams prepare you for better opportunities you cannot yet imagine. Some failures redirect you toward a path you would never have chosen on your own, but will later recognize as exactly where you needed to be. Looking back, many of life's greatest blessings often begin disguised as painful endings. What once felt like rejection becomes protection. What once seemed like loss becomes redirection. What once appeared to be failure becomes the very foundation of future success. The courage to let go also requires trusting yourself. It means believing that you are capable of building joy again after disappointment, finding love again after heartbreak, creating opportunities after setbacks, and discovering purpose after uncertainty. It is choosing faith over fear, possibility over limitation, and growth over comfort. That trust does not appear all at once. It grows every time you make a decision that aligns with the person you hope to become. instead of the person your past tried to convince you that you would always be. As you stand at the threshold of another year, remember that your future does not need a perfect version of you. It needs a willing one. It needs someone prepared to travel lighter, dream bigger, forgive deeper, and live more fully. The strongest people are not those who carry every burden without complaint. They are those who have learned the wisdom of setting unnecessary burdens down before they become permanent chains. Every goodbye to fear becomes a hello to courage. Every release of regret becomes an invitation to hope. Every act of forgiveness becomes a gift you first give yourself. When you choose to let go, you are not losing pieces of your life. You are reclaiming the freedom to live it with an open heart, a peaceful mind, unwavering purpose, and the quiet confidence to step into 2026, believing that the best chapters of your story are still waiting to be written by the person you are becoming today, rather than the person you once were yesterday.